Hello, Magi, and welcome back to another Interesting Touhou Facts. This video, we're gonna do something different, and not talk about 5 different facts, but focus on one thing. If you've been watching this series, you know this isn't my usual format. The reason I'm doing this is because a comment mentioned I should talk about Maribel and Yukari's connection. I was thinking, yeah, it could be fun to talk about. While I've known that these two had some sort of connections due to fanworks, I've never really looked deep into it until that comment. After my research, I learned that this is something I could not condense, hence the reason this entire video will be focused on Maribel and Yukari's connection. Now that the explanation is done, let's begin the Interesting Touhou Facts number 26. Number 1. As mentioned in the intro, we're going to discuss the possible, keyword possible, relationship between Maribel Hearn and Yukari Yakumo. Let's talk about Maribel's ability, as that's one of the key reasons why people have associated the two together. She may be from the outside world, but we know that doesn't mean humans can't have powers, as shown from Maribel, Renko, and later the new girl, Sumiriko. She possesses the ability to see boundaries. From her words, she simply just does. Like how we simply just breathe. My example may not be the best, but let's just roll with it. This includes the ability to see other worlds, such as seeing the far side of the moon. Would be interesting to see the far side, since if I recall correctly, the only side we ever get to see is the one we're currently seeing right now. Correct me if I'm wrong. She also often visits Ginsokyou in her dreams and is sometimes chased by yokai. Well, you aren't from the human village, so it makes sense you get chased. She can even bring back physical items. Regarding this, considering that visiting another world is an entirely different matter compared to seeing it, Renko made the consideration that perhaps her ability has advanced to become the ability to manipulate the boundaries. Sounds like a certain Gap yokai we know. By the time of Trojan Green Asteroid, she isn't only able to travel across boundaries to other worlds freely, but is also capable of taking Renko with her. Damn, Maribel got an upgrade of sorts. However, in order to reach Torifune, she needed to connect the gate of a shrine to Ame no Torifune with that of the one within the station. Renko notes later in neo-traditionalism of Japan, a mouthful to say, that her power seems to be connected to shrines. Why do I feel like the shrine deals based on the Hakurei shrine? The duo's trip to Torifune wasn't the first time the two have gone adventuring to other worlds. It's noted by Maribel in neo-traditionalism that while visiting Torifune was a reality to Maribel, it was still a dream to Renko, which is why Maribel got injured by a chimera while Renko didn't. Lucky for Renko, that's for sure. Renko privately realizes the same conclusion, recalling that the two encountered yokai during visits to other worlds that were real to Maribel but felt like figments of her imagination to Renko. Renko notes that Maribel's powers has grown rapidly stronger in neo-traditionalism, so only a few days later, she can now see beyond to the other side of boundaries and show her visions to others by putting her hands over their eyes. Although the transferred visions are unstable, but still adequate, she can now travel through worlds even while awake, and consciously taking back objects from those worlds is easy for her. Her power has grown so much that Renko couldn't help but think that Maribel was on the same level as those yokai. One of Yukari's most famous use of her ability was to go to the moon through its reflection on the lake in Silent Sinner. At the end of Magical Astronomy, Maribel also gets an idea of how to get to the moon while looking at the reflection in the lake, although the story ends there without explicitly saying what it was. From just seeing the borders to grabbing shit from other worlds, our little Maribel sure has grown over the years. Now that we've discussed Maribel's power, let's talk about the other parts that make people consider Yukari and Maribel to be connected. Maribel and Yukari's appearance are very similar to each other. Both have the same hair color and, in most official portrayals, eye color. In addition to this, both are always depicted wearing some combination of purple and red, the opposite color of the visible spectrum, as well as ribbons tied in the shape of an 8, which is stated to be one of the meanings of Yukari's name. Both also wear a bonnet. Let's talk about dreams, as they can be very important to connecting the two. In Perfect Memento, it mentions a couple of speculations by various denizens of Ginsokyou. One is that Yukari is a yokai from the outside world and spends her days and winters there, the time she claims to be sleeping. Another is that the outside world is Yukari's dreams. I don't know about that part. If I was part of a dream, then that would be some funky shit. It's also stated that Yukari's ability to manipulate boundaries includes the ability to enter dreams. Perfect Memento doesn't state how valid these speculations are. Maribel herself has visited Gensokyo in her dreams. In these dreams, she appears to still be Maribel and still be a human, as she says she is constantly attacked by yokai and runs from them in fear, which is the point when she typically wakes up. And also time to wake up, I might add, unlike those poor suckers that have to deal with Freddy. No, not that Freddy, this one. Let's talk about time period, as that has some importance. Maribel is descended from a lineage which has had the ability to sense the supernatural since long ago. That's one hell of a lineage, that's for sure. She herself exists in a time in the near future when her stories are stated to take place. Yukari, meanwhile, has existed for at least over 1200 years before and up to the present day when the Touhou project takes place. It's confirmed that traveling through time is possible in Touhou. Toyohime mentions that rarely, time is one of the things that a human can get spirited away in Cajun Lunatic, 3rd chapter. Maribel appears to have traveled through time on at least one occasion. In Perfect Memento, there's an entry about a mysterious memo found several hundred years ago, written by a person who believes she's wandering in the bamboo forest of the lost while she's dreaming, mentioning such thing as a GPS and a cell phone, and even the phrase, "I'm gonna tell Renko about it when I wake up." If that ain't Maribel's memo, then I don't know what is. Going by this, Maribel was apparently herself in Gensokyo during at least 2 different times, hundreds of years apart. In Changeability of Strange Dream, Maribel visits a Scarlet Mansion with a maid, presumably the Scarlet Devil Mansion, at one point, and at another point gets lost in the bamboo forest, of which the events where she gets lost indicates it's the bamboo forest of the lost. The memo in Perfect Memento shows that the period in which she got lost was several hundred years before the present day, while the Scarlet Devil Mansion is known to arrive in Gensokyo only recently. No time travel stuff, please! I'm already dealing with a parallel/time traveling expansion. I am not happy about it. Now that we've dealt with some time period and annoying time travel, let's discuss Yukari's original name. Yukari Yakumo is probably quoted from Ryunosuke, not Yukari's original name. In Curiosity of Lotus Asia, chapter 26, while analyzing the meaning of Yukari's name, Ryunosuke notes that Yukari is probably the name she chose for herself. Yukari's article in Perfect Memento supports this by mentioning records from 1200 years ago of a yokai that seems to be Yukari Yakumo. The wording shows those records didn't have the yokai's name recorded as Yukari Yakumo. Maribel's name, who appears to be based on Lafcadio Hearn, changed his name to Koizumi Yakumo when he became a Japanese citizen. Yukari's name might be based on Lafcadio as well. In Changeability, Maribel also worries, to an unknown degree of seriousness, that her real name was forgotten because Renko always calls her Mary. I want to discuss Gensokyo, or its reality of sorts anyway. Maribel believes that the world in her dreams, Gensokyo, is merely a dream, although it's so realistic that it leads her to panic about whether her dream is the true reality or not. Given your powers, I can see why. Renko, however, believes that it's not a dream and that Maribel has actually visited another world. In the end, after debating on a choice which would lead Maribel to either stay in the world by convincing her it's real, or the real world by convincing her it's just a dream, Renko decides to tell Maribel to make her dream a reality. That's one way to do it. In Memorizable Gensokyo, Yukari refers to herself as the representative of Gensokyo's reality. Speaking of Gensokyo, let's talk about the state of it. Changeability of Strange Dreams, Japanese title, translates to the science era of changing a bad dream to become true, while the synopsis includes a statement, 2 young female mediums changing future nightmares to sweet dreams. Within the storyline, where Maribel is trapped in Gensokyo, she comments, "The dream usually ends when I'm being chased by a yokai. It certainly seems like a nightmare, no matter how you see it. Although," followed by, "though if I could change that nightmare to a pleasant dream, different from present reality." Yukari doesn't say how she feels about the state of Gensokyo as it is. Certainly, there are many events throughout Gensokyo's history leading up to its current state which might have involved or been caused by her, but most can't be absolutely 100% confirmed. AQ, however, does comment in the afterword of Perfect Memento, "These peaceful yet stimulating times are surely a golden age for humans and yokai alike. There's no doubt that Gensokyo has become the way it is thanks to the isolation brought by the Great Hakure Barrier, which was the solution endorsed by the yokai sages, which is confirmed to include Yukari in Subterranean. Yukari's own section also states that she was a major supporter of the Great Barrier. Again, good work on the community for picking up bits and pieces and trying to figure out if the two had a connection. What does Zune have to say about this? Zun's answer to the above question acknowledges a relationship between Maribel and Yukari, but he only explicitly mentioned Lafcadio Hearn. Lafcadio Hearn, to give a short summary, was an international writer known for his books about Japan, especially his collections of Japanese legends and ghost stories such as Kuwai-den, stories and studies of strange things. He changed his name to Koizumi Yakumo as mentioned earlier. And that should bloody sum up the possible relationship / connections between Maribel and Yukari. Wow, for one simple comment that led to a video dedicated specifically to this. Fun times, fun times. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Normally I'd say which facts were your favorite, but there was only one. So hope this answers the possible relationship the two could have. Like always, this is Magi and hope you guys enjoyed this episode.